So what's your favorite scary movie?
Have you watched any of my videos? It's the original Halloween.
Oh, alright. Then what's your second favorite scary movie?
Oh, I like that one with that Hottie Hot Hot from Party of Five.
Neve Campbell?
Duh. Now if you excuse me, I have a review to do. I'll be right back. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Horror. I'm Tensa, and it's time to once again start a new franchise. Today I'll be looking at the classic 90s horror that brought a jolt of life back into the genre, Scream. Yes, in the 90s, the horror genre was not doing so well. You had your good movie here and there, but with a market saturated with sequels to now boring slashers, it was hard to come across a true groundbreaker. However, a struggling screenwriter by the name of Kevin Williamson would change that after being inspired to write a script after watching a documentary on the grisly real-life murders from the Gainesville Ripper, a man who killed 8 people over the course of 4 days in Gainesville, Florida in August of 1990. Williamson, who was also a huge fan of horror, his favorite film being Halloween, came up with a story that played with the conventions and cliches of the genre and blended them with his dark sense of humor. His draft, then titled Scary Movie, luckily changed to Scream by the end of production, became the talk of Hollywood, and a bidding war began to purchase it. When the dust settled, it was Miramax Films that won the rights and would distribute the movie through their sister company, Dimension Films. The movie would be framed as a whodunit, focused on a group of teens facing a string of murders occurring in the quiet town of Woodsboro, California. Main heroine Sidney Prescott is also reeling from the murder of her mother that took place 1 year prior. On the hunt for a director, the studio was turned down by some of the best, including George Romero and Sam Raimi. Wes Craven turned the offer down 3 times before finally agreeing to direct, thanks to a fairly funny reason.
A little kid, I think 12 years old, somewhere around there, coming to me and saying, "You should do a real movie again, because you've been doing, your movies are getting softer and softer. Look, you've been fighting this whole career, but the movies you've made that have really been important have crossed the boundaries of decency and are scary because they are ruthless."
The cast had to include a batch of cool, relatable teens, so it started with Neve Campbell, hot off her role on Party of Five, landing the role of Sidney. The rest of the gang was rounded out with Skeet Ulrich as Sidney's slick boyfriend Billy Loomis, Rose McGowan as her feisty best friend Tatum Riley, Matthew Lillard as Tatum's goofy boyfriend Stu, and Jamie Kennedy as the fifth wheel, horror-obsessed geek Randy. For the older crowd, David Arquette was selected to play the slightly bumbling deputy Dewey Riley, Tatum's brother. Then there was Courtney Cox, who was on the biggest show at the time, Friends, and was surprisingly persistent about playing against type as bitchy news reporter Gail Weathers. Finally, the knife-wielding killer, simply referred to as Ghostface, would be played on screen by a stuntman until the final reveal. However, Roger Jackson was hired to play the frightening voice that would be calling all his victims.
Wes did not let the actors see who was doing the voice.
It was always a point to keep us separate, because my job is to frighten them. There is no monster as frightening as the one you create in your own imagination.
Phew. So, with a smart and scary script, classic horror director, young cast of popular teen actors, and terrifying villain, would this slasher throwback be able to revive a dying genre? Let's take a look. The movie begins innocently enough with Casey Becker receiving a wrong number phone call. Oh yeah, that is Drew Barrymore. How could I have forgotten such a big actress was cast in a leading role? Anyways, the caller continues to call Casey back, and things seem relatively fine as they talk about some of their favorite scary movies and get flirtatious.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
And shit just got real. She correctly hangs up after that comment, but the person keeps calling back and threatening to kill her if she hangs up again. Several threats in, Casey is panicking, especially after a doorbell ring and asking the proverbial question, who's there?
You should never say who's there. Don't you watch scary movies? It's a death wish. You might as well just come out here to investigate a strange noise or something.
The caller reveals that they knew she had a boyfriend, Steve, who is tied up on her back porch. If she wants him to live, she has to play a game of horror trivia. She answers the first question correctly, that Michael Myers was the killer in Halloween. However, when she answers that it was Jason who was the killer in Friday the 13th...
Then you should know Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, was the original killer. Jason didn't show up until the sequel. Lucky for you, there's a bonus round. But poor Steve, I'm afraid he's out.
The final question is to guess what door they're at, but a chair through the back door answers that quickly. Casey is chased around the house until she makes it outside. She can see help on the horizon as her parents are returning, but Mr. Ghostface here stops her just before she can reach them. Her parents enter the chaotic house wondering where Casey is, but it's not long before they find her. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. That is without question my favorite opening in horror and probably film history. It's tense, scary, shocking, and the escalation of the situation is insane. The voice of the killer is just as terrifying as the actual person themselves because of how mysterious, gruff, demeaning, and threatening it is. There is such a good build-up, going from playful chatting to death and chaos, making you wonder what the hell is going to happen to this girl, thanks largely to the fact that it's Drew Barrymore. At the time of the film's release, everyone thought she was gonna make it out because she's the lead. She's Drew freaking Barrymore. No way is she getting killed off in the first 15 minutes. Surprisingly, she was supposed to be the lead of Sidney, but before production began, she opted out of that role to be the opening kill instead, figuring no one would expect it. A definite throwback to the original Psycho with Janet Leigh, the big-name star being killed off. Barrymore does such a good job of portraying the fear one would be feeling in that situation. If it had been some unknown, I do believe the opening loses its impact. It is total horror perfection. Its only flaw being that it's the opening, and while I adore the rest of the movie, its beginning is the major highlight. We move on to our real lead, Sidney Prescott, whose dad, Neil, is leaving for a business trip, giving her boyfriend Billy the opportunity to sneak in.
The Exorcist was on. Got me thinking of you.
It did?
Yeah, it did? Has Sidney puked green all over you in the past? Nah, he thinks their relationship has been more edited for TV as of late, just as they were heading to an NC-17 rating. Dude's a horn dog who says he doesn't want to pressure her, but with the charming analogies he's throwing out there, it's hard to believe that. The next morning, the school is swarmed with police and news crew as Sid's best friend Tatum fills her in on the previous night's murders. The whole school is being questioned, and Sid is no exception, being brought into Principal Himbry's office to speak with Sheriff Burke and Deputy Dewey, Tatum's brother. Yes, that is Fonzie himself, Henry Winkler, playing Himbry. Before she's brought in, the crew mention that she's the daughter of someone. One of the first hints that Sid is dealing with some other tragic stuff. Later, Sidney has a conversation about the murders with the rest of her friends, including Tatum's boyfriend Stu and semi-weirdo Randy. He accuses Stu of the murder since Casey dumped him for Steve, and it certainly would improve his high school Q, and wonders if he was with Tatum before or after he sliced and diced. As for Randy, he was working at the video store, even though they fired his sorry ass twice.
Just getting mad, right? Better live her alone. Live her alone! Ow, liver.
God, I love the humor in this, especially from Lillard as Stu. Sidney goes home but is woken up that night by a call from the killer. They toy with her a bit, letting her know that they're calling from her front porch. She goes to investigate but finds nothing, reducing this whole thing to a joke.
If you hang up on me, you'll die just like your mother. Do you want to die, Sidney? Your mother sure didn't.
Yes, Sidney's mother was actually murdered the previous year, which is why everyone seems to treat her with kid gloves. She runs back inside, but surprise, the killer is in the house and nearly gets her, but she fends off their attack and runs upstairs. Wait, what was it that you said a little bit ago, Sidney?
What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Hypocrite! Billy pops into her room saying he heard the commotion and wanted to save her, but gasp! A cell phone drops from his pocket. You see, kids, back in the day, cellular phones weren't as common as they are today, which is why Sidney suspects he is the killer. He's arrested, and news reporter extraordinaire Gale Weathers is first on the scene with Kenny the cameraman.
I know that you're about 50 pounds overweight, but when I say hurry, please interpret that as move your fat tub of lard ass now!
Billy is interrogated by Sheriff Burke while Dewey attempts to move Sidney outside through the back to avoid the media circus. This fails though, as Gale catches them and questions Sidney about her ordeal. Sid's fine answering because she's just doing her job, but also asks Gale how the book on her mom's murder is going.
Well, it'll be out later this year.
Oh, I'll look for it.
I'll send you a copy.
Back at Tatum's house, the two speculate if Billy is innocent, but she receives a call from the killer, telling her she identified the wrong person again. The next morning, Sidney speaks to Gale, who thinks the man she accused of her mother's death, Cotton Weary is innocent. She can see the speculation all over Sid's face, prompting her to get more involved to potentially save a man on death row and find the real murderer. At school, Sidney has it rough with the pranksters running through the halls in masks and Billy being back after his release. He tells her she hasn't been the same since her mom died.
No, it's been a year. I think it's time you got over that. I mean, when my mom left my dad, I accepted it. It's the way it is. She's not coming back.
Yeah, Sid, your mom was brutally murdered a year ago. It's about time you get over that horrific event in your life so you can have sex with your boyfriend. So selfish. In the bathroom, Sidney overhears some girls talking shit on her, but then is randomly attacked by Ghostface. This attack is honestly the only moment I've never really liked. Was it the killer or just a prankster? How would they have known she was in there? As events unfold by the end, you'll see that the incident doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, Principal Himry detains some actual pranksters and fools around with the mask in his office, but someone starts messing with him.
Damn little shits.
What'd you call me?
Not your friend.
That is indeed a reference to Freddy Krueger with the outfit and name, but it's also director Wes Craven himself in a fun nod to his old creation. After some more investigation, the coast appears to be clear for Himry. Hey, hit the jukebox ain't gonna fix this, Fonz. With classes canceled and a curfew in effect, Stu decides he's gonna throw a party at his place to celebrate and invites the girls. He then goes to the video store to bother Randy at work. Again, kids, you have to understand, we had to rent physical copies of movies long ago. No streaming at the tip of our fingers. Randy tells Stu he thinks Billy is the killer based on standard horror movie knowledge. However, Stu thinks it's Sidney's dad because they haven't been able to track him down on his business trip. Randy thinks they can't find him because he's already dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Billy confronts Randy, saying he could be the killer if his movie-freaked mind lost its reality button. It's true, everybody's a suspect. That night, Stu's party begins, and Dewey shows up along with Gail, who's looking to plant a camera in the house. Stu asks Tatum to get him a beer from the garage, but when she's locked out, she's greeted by Ghostface. She doesn't take them too seriously until shit escalates and she has to defend herself, which she does fairly well. That is, until she tries to escape out the doggy door. I can admit, this is the only moment that feels kinda goofy and over the top as far as kills go. Billy pops up at the house to take Sidney upstairs for a talk. That leads to Billy finally getting what he wants from her. Downstairs, the party is watching Halloween, and there are those that are really enjoying it, and those that just don't get how people enjoy watching such movies. The inability to understand how horror movies operate prompts Randy to explain to the group the rules of surviving a horror movie.
Number 1, you can never have sex. Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. And number 3, never, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
The fun comes to a halt when Randy receives a call that Himry was found dead on the football field, leading the remaining partygoers to leave to check him out. They nearly run over Dewey and Gail, who are out looking for a reported abandoned car in the woods. They find it and discover it belongs to Neil Prescott. After sex, Ghostface shows up to stab Billy and chase Sidney out of the attic window. They go down to the living room where Randy is telling Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie to look behind her. Jamie Kennedy, with a killer unknowingly behind him, telling Jamie Lee to look behind her for Michael. How many levels of meta is that? Sidney runs to Gail's news van where Kenny the cameraman is keeping an eye on their hidden camera. They see Ghostface behind Randy, but he slinks away, so when Kenny goes back to check outside... Oh my god, they killed Kenny!
You bastard!
Sidney escapes out the back and runs for the hills. Dewey heads inside while Gail finds her van covered in blood. Randy surprises her, so she beats him with a phone, and as she attempts to leave, discovers Kenny's dead body on the roof. She nearly hits Sidney in the middle of the road, causing a crash in the woods. Sidney returns to the house, only to find Dewey stumbling out with a knife in his back. Ghostface traps Sidney in the cop car and tries to attack, but she manages to escape once again. She grabs Dewey's gun and is unsure of who to trust between Randy and Stu, as they both plead with her that the other is the killer. She tells them both to fuck off and locks them out. Billy is still alive, tumbling down the stairs to help Sidney. He offers to take the gun from her and let Randy back inside.
Stu's flipped out. He's gone mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
Wait, then who stabbed him upstairs?
Please.
Surprise, Sydney.
This reveal blew my mind as a kid. 2 killers? I thought it was totally brilliant and unexpected. The 2 explained that they were the ones who murdered her mother and framed Cotton Weary. Sydney wants to know why they killed her mom and all those other people. Billy doesn't really believe in motives and thought they were doing her mother a favor since she was promiscuous, flashing her shit around town like she was Sharon Stone.
Yeah, it would put her out of her misery, because let's face it, Sydney, your mother was no Sharon Stone.
However, he goes on to explain that her mother was sleeping with his father. When his mother found out, it caused her to leave and abandon him. Their plan is to frame Neil Prescott, who they've been holding captive, and kill them both. The 2 of them would be the only survivors, so to make their story believable, Billy and Stu begin stabbing each other just enough to look like they were attacked. These sick fucks have seen one too many movies.
Don't you blame the movies! Movies don't create psychos! Movies make psychos more creative!
I stand corrected. Gail interrupts them with Dewey's gun, but she's knocked out by Billy when she can't fire due to the safety being on. Sydney takes this opportunity to hide and make some calls to the house to let the psychos know that she called the cops and reported both of them.
Did you really call the police?
You bet your sorry ass I did.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
Billy's hunt leads him to the closet where Sydney successfully attacks. And in this shot here, that is a genuine reaction to pain from Skeet Ulrich. Nev missed the plate she was supposed to hit under his chest, and it really got him. Stu regains some energy to attack Sydney, but she's able to get the upper hand.
I always had a thing for you, Sid!
In your dreams.
Well, at least the last thing he ever saw was Halloween. Not a terrible way to go out. Sydney goes to check Billy's body, but gets a jump scare from the still alive Randy, who's never been happier to be a virgin. Billy is also alive, ready to finally kill Sydney, but before he can, Gail returns to shoot him in the chest. The 3 regroup to check out the corpse.
Careful. This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
Not in my movie.
Everybody is finally safe, including Dewey, who is wheeled out on a stretcher the next morning, while Gail gives her reports on the night's insane events. My overall thoughts on Scream. It really is my second favorite horror movie of all time. Wes Craven's direction is at its best. Yes, I'm including A Nightmare on Elm Street. And Kevin Williamson's script is smart, scary, and funny. Smart because he created a satirical look at the slasher genre, with characters who know the films and cliches of the genre. They know what they should or shouldn't be doing, they know the rules, and yet they turn around and commit the fatal mistakes. The film is very self-referential, oddly enough reminiscent of some bits of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. It's all wrapped in a whodunit that genuinely keeps you guessing who is the killer until the very end. I love that aspect because it's a fun game to play as a first-time viewer. As Randy says, everybody's a suspect, and the whole time you're observing characters and guessing potential motives. Then to subvert your expectations and reveal that it's been 2 killers is excellent. For as crazy as they're revealed to be, Billy and Stu were fairly smart and shown to be meticulously planning out their actions. One could be on the phone with the voice box while the other is running around in the costume. They covered their tracks thoroughly in order to throw people off the trail and appear innocent. And that all wraps around quite well to the subplot of Sydney's mom's murder, which affected her life dramatically but was motivated by Maureen's infidelity. It's definitely scary too, especially the opening. The whole movie does have a quality to it that makes it seem somewhat believable. It's not zombie Jason stalking Crystal Lake. A small town is thrown into disarray after the gruesome murder of 2 teens by an unknown assailant. What transpires could and has happened, i.e. the Gainesville Ripper, who, as I stated in the beginning, inspired Williamson to write. I'm not afraid of Jason, Freddy, and Chucky, but I would be afraid of some random person who would make harassing phone calls and come after me for no real reason. I think the look of Ghostface is creepy and worthy of becoming iconic. It's very simple, but that's the beauty of it, because the mask is freaky and helps enhance the mystery of who's behind it, because it could truly be anybody. And God, that voice is terrifying. Creative that they explain it by showing it comes from a voice-changing device. Roger Jackson's voice acting is pitch perfect, making the viewer afraid of the killer before you ever even see them. The kills aren't otherworldly, but that works in the movie's favor. I think the opening with its display of Steve and Casey's guts are the most intense, as the rest are simple stabs and cuts. Tatum's head crush is the one weird exception that feels out of place. While it can be scary, I find myself laughing a lot during the movie. The phrases thrown around randomly make it my personal most quoted movie. I'll incorporate random lines into everyday life and the occasional review.
Stu was with me last night, okay?
Yeah, it was. Was that before or after he sliced and diced?
God, I loved it. I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down.
Okay. Really? Why'd the cops let him go, smart guy? No, I don't at all. No.
There goes my chance with Sid.
As if. That's all I'm saying. As if.
Get up! I can't, Billy. Oh, you cut me too deep. I think I'm dying here, man.
Police are on their way. What are you gonna tell them?
Peer pressure.
Fucking hit me with the phone, Dick!
It's the characters that help make the humor work. They are just so sharp-witted, like they were ripped out of a John Hughes film. The dialogue delivery is key, and the wonderful ensemble cast nails it, working off each other with their great chemistry. Sydney is one of my all-time favorite Final Girls because she's very proactive, smart, and a capable fighter while also trying to deal with her own demons involving her mother. She even manages to break one of the rules, never have sex, and survive. She's a badass. The rest of the cast is just as lovable. Tatum is a supportive friend to Sydney who is always there for her and talks her through her hard times. Dewey is such a shy guy that's charming in his efforts to be taken seriously by everyone as the sheriff's deputy.
God damn it, Dewey.
What did Mama tell you? When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law.
Stu is such an over-the-top frat boy, but Matthew Lillard plays it so well that he's fucking hilarious and never annoying. He goes full-on crazy spit-talking by the end, but his comments still make me laugh during that time. Gale Weathers is the ultimate bitch, and yet you never really hate her for some reason. She's overbearing, mean to her cameraman, constantly harassing Sydney, but somehow you're rooting for her in the end. You can tell Courtney Cox is having fun with the role, making her almost an anti-hero. And yeah, Randy is my favorite character. I related to him as a kid, and I still relate to him now. The nerdy, horror movie obsessed friend who more or less comes off as a third wheel that can't get the girl. But he's a funny guy that's knowledgeable enough to survive to the end. And Billy. While I can't call him lovable, I think he is a good villain. He does seem off throughout, leading him to be the obvious killer suspect, but he manages to make you second guess at times and come off as just a really horny boyfriend. When he's revealed to be one half of the killer, his true psychotic colors are on full display. He's got his revenge motive, but he's so crazy that you almost sense he's just killing for his own amusement. He gives off the impression that he was the brains behind the whole operation, while Stu was just a bit of his lackey. He is my favorite antagonist of the whole series. I saw this movie when I was 6 years old, and I fell in love with it. Smart script, great directing, a wonderful ensemble cast having fun with their characters, a fascinating satire on slashers wrapped in a whodunit. It's tense and scary, but includes well-timed humor, one of the best openings of all time, and an overly satisfying finale. I give Scream 6 ghost faces out of 5. But let me know your thoughts. Who did you think was the killer on your first watch? Do you hold the movie in as high regard as I do? Who was your favorite character? And what was your favorite kill? Don't forget to subscribe and follow my Twitter and Instagram. Links to those are in the description. Next week, the terror follows Sydney to college in Scream 2. Until next time, peace.